Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Kiali community meeting. This is a Sprint 2411, and we are going to do a patch release for Kiali 1.89. So this is our agenda. We will go through the summary for this sprint. We are going to go through the highlights, and next we will see the preview of the task for the next sprint. And for last, we will have, as always, our community discussion. So this is a summary of this sprint. As you can see, as always, our main contributions are in the Kiali repository with 51 issues done so far. We have also some contributions in Kiali Operator and Kiali.io, and also in the OpenShift Service Mesh plugin. And let's see the highlights for this patch release. So what's the motivation for a patch release? So we are preparing the Kiali 2.0, and this will include major features and changes. So we have changed, or we have done our master or main branch, the code for Kiali.0, and that's the reason why until this version is released, as long as we need to release anything, we will do a patch release for, in this case, this version that is Kiali 1.89. We don't have a release date yet, and these are we have a GitHub epic with the several tasks that we are planning to include in this release. Let's see one of those. So the idea is to change our landing page of the Kiali UI, and instead of being the overview page, it would be the new mesh page. Also, we are working in having our default graph, the pattern flying graph, and not the cytoscape graph. As I remember, I will say that we can switch between these two implementations of the graph. And we have the cytoscape graph by default, but you are able to change or in the Kiali configuration. But we are planning to include the pattern flying as the default. Another internal change is to move from the standard camel case, from the snake case, and use the camel case instead. And there is another important change, and this is about how Kiali discovers or the namespace that has access to. So we are changing to be configured doing asset-based selectors, and in a similar way as Istio does this configuration now. And we used to do it using the fields accessible namespaces and also the includes or excludes namespaces, but we wanted to simplify and make it more easier. That's the motivation of this change. That would be probably a breaking change. There is in the issue a link to the document with all the specification and or the new behavior in case you want to have more details about this. And yeah, that will probably be this one of the more important changes of this release. And another thing will be to include a graph extension framework that will allow to third parties to link to their telemetry in the Kiali graph. There is already a POC, PR, and this, in case you want to have a look, this is already linked from this Kiali 2.0 epic. And now let's see some important features and bug fixes that were backported to this release patch release version. So this is the Canary versions auto discover. I'm going to pass the mic to Hype.
Yes, thank you, Josune. So before, Kiali had a configuration to set a canary revision and update the canary upgrades feature in a Kiali, and it was able to migrate namespaces from current version to the canary versions. And now those configuration of canary revision is deprecated. Kiali, when it's upgrade feature is configured, so it's enabled. This means that Kiali will discover all Istio pods which are running on a cluster and will recognize them and will give a functionality to switch to that version of Istio-D. As well as in the mesh page, in the summary section, that Canary upgrade status pie chart is changed. So now it can show the several versions, like which show in which particular Istio-D version how many namespaces are migrated. So it's not only one direction, whether it is current or Canary, but it can be multiple revisions of Istio. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaime. This is another nice feature. And well, another thing is related to how we visualize the waypoint edges in ambient mesh. So when we are in an ambient mesh, we can choose, well, by default, we are not going to see the waypoint proxies, which are these layer 7 components of the ambient mesh, and they are not showing by default, but we have a display option to show them. And we have introduced a new component that is at edge that has double arrows that indicates that the traffic is or this waypoint proxy is the source, but also the destination node. And with in the left we have an image of how we previously visualized it, but it was not corresponding really with the traffic or the direction of the traffic, because usually the waypoint is an element which is in the middle and it receives traffic, but it also sends traffic. And in order to simplify this graph, as now with ambient we have edges from different layers and the graph is getting quite complicated, we introduce this new element that hopefully reduces this noise in the graph. We are also working on another proof of concept about how to simplify also these different edges for different layers in ambient, and hopefully we can release or do a demo soon. Some other notable changes was to add support for the default export to field in the mesh config. And this is a configuration that it's when we have a destination rule, a virtual service, or a service entry that doesn't have an export to field, it will use this configuration, the default export to. Another changes is that we have updates on versions, the Axios, and a Webpack version. And about bug fixes, one is related to tempo as the distributed tracing. There was a bug that ignored the query scope in a single cluster environment. So we have fixed that so to be able to use it and scope our queries based on this field and in the value specified in the configuration. We also have a fix for a multi-cluster service entry scenario. And in this particular issue, we are ensuring that when a service node is shared by nodes that are in different clusters, each one can get its own service entry nodes using the cluster-specific definition. Another bug fix is there was a fix. There was a crash in the graph when the cluster name was not found in or was not recognized in any of the nodes in the graph, and we have fixed it. So we don't see a crash, and we are going to see this traffic as traffic coming from external or not allowed nodes. And the last one was a fix for the external leads when we define custom dashboards in Grafana. And this is a preview for the next sprint. We will continue to work on epics from the previous sprint. One is continue the support for Istio ambient, and another to improve the Kiali graph with pattern fly topology. And there are a couple of new epics. One is to include Cypress tests for OpenShift Server Mesh Console. And we have, as we talked before, these Kiali 2.0 enhancements. We have several things in the backlog. Ones are already assigned. And in case you want to have a look at all the backlog issues, you can click in the project board. So I'm going to stop the recording now and go with the community discussion. Thank you.